quick little video or quick little point about this IT Central place. It's quite annoying. I wrote a review, and this would be another review, but a bit more detailed review now. They didn't try and get back to me. I didn't try and deal with the issue. They just basically let it go. Because I phoned up and I told them that £70 I paid to put on the Windows 10 was a complete utter waste of money. Because I had to replace that Windows 10 as soon as I got home because the one they put on wouldn't work. I couldn't go onto internet. I couldn't access any of my drives. So I couldn't install any of the software I had to install at all. I couldn't do anything with that Windows 10 in any way, shape or form. Now, I'll start off with what actually happened to the PC, I suppose. I upgraded the motherboard, the processor, and the memory. And I thought, right, well, let's test the thing. So let's overclock the CPU a tiny bit because I can do that. It's a Ryzen 7, so it should be able to be overclocked a bit. Let's see what it can do. So I did that and put it through its test, its Cinebench test. And it did pretty good, certainly compared to the previous motherboard and everything I had previously. Its score was way higher. So it was like, cool. And I just left it because the PC was working perfectly well. It didn't seem to have any problems at all doing anything. Certainly it didn't seem to be being pushed. The thing of it is that I'd overclocked slightly the GPU as well, the graphics card. It was an old graphics card. And then after about a month, every now and again, about every week, the screen went black and couldn't do anything about it. I had to restart the computer, then it was okay. For about another week, then it happened again, and it just kept on happening. It happened about 4 or 5 times, and I decided, right, okay. There's obviously the overclocking is causing a problem, so I'm going to put it back to default. But when I did that, the Windows loaded up, but all the icons on the page, on the first page you get to, look massive, as if the drivers for the graphics card hadn't been installed. So I thought that's a bit weird. Obviously, I just took off the overclocking, so the default has come back, showing everything massive when it shouldn't be, and I couldn't do anything about it. So I thought, right, let's put a tiny bit of overclock on, but nowhere near what I put on before. Well, so I went back into the BIOS to do that. Then when I'd done that, now it wouldn't do anything at all. Now it was booting up, but it wasn't seeing the Windows. The drive with Windows. It wouldn't recognize it. It wouldn't load it. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't load Windows 7 again because obviously I put it back to default. So it's got to have different settings in the BIOS to allow Windows 7 to work. I hadn't done that. So no, nothing was working. And then, so I thought, okay, let's have a look. So we're looking at the system. Let's see what I can do. So I took everything out, put it all back in again, and then it wouldn't load up at all. Anything wouldn't even go into BIOS. So it was suddenly getting worse. It went from 1 degree to another, then to another, then to another, then to another, to the point where the lights were on the computer, the fans were on, but nothing was coming through at all. I thought, right, okay, that's useless. I tried everything I could do. I didn't have any spare parts. Of course, I'm not a computer shop, so why would I have spare parts? I haven't got thousands of pounds to spare, and a room big enough where I can have loads of computer parts just stored all over the place in case I have a problem. So, had I have had that, I could have solved the problem myself quite easily. So in the end, I took the computer down to this IT Central place because it's one of the only places still open. I mean, there would have been other places open, but that was the nearest one to me. And because I've gone down there before, used it for another service that they do, and I thought, okay, let's take it down there. I've been down to the place before, so I know where it is, etc., etc. I explained to them the situation. They didn't really write down much detail at all. I noticed when I was telling the person about what had been happening, he wasn't really writing much down at all, so it was not helpful. Proved later to be quite relevant because in later discussions, had he written things down properly, he would have realised that what he was therefore saying was silly because I'd already said that wasn't the case when I first come in. But yeah, it took them a few days to actually get to it because they had other jobs on. But when they got to it, they said they'd run the test and they had found that most things worked okay. When they tried their graphics card, everything worked okay. Everything booted up. So it's probably my graphics card that's the problem. Probably as a result of overclocking it, which is fine. It's an old one, so it's understandable when you overclock something that's old and not really meant to be overclocked. You can have a problem with it, yeah. Burn it out, whatever. So yeah. But then they, as I say, had they written stuff down, they would have realised they've got to check to see if it'll boot up to Windows, and if it won't, why won't it? They did none of that at all. Then it got to a point of trying to order a new graphics card. First, they suggested the 1050. But then when I said I don't play video games, they then said, okay, so go for the 5500. Sorry, the 550. 550 they went for. I'm like, okay. So I said, well, give me a few minutes. I'll look online to see what prices I can get. I asked them what their price was. And their price was, I think, £90. £90 for the thing. And yeah, it's not worth that much, not in any way, shape, or form. On eBay, it was £45, around about £45. On Amazon, about the same. It's just on eBay and Amazon, obviously, they were saying 4 to 5 days to deliver. Whereas the shop was telling me that their supplier gets things delivered within 2 days. So it was my computer, quite expensive computer, really, seeing as it had a lot of stuff in it. It had 3 M.2 drives. It only had one SSD at the time when it was in the shop because I kept one back because that one had slight damage to the pins. The pins weren't straight, so I thought with that one, I thought was only the one with the backup, the Windows backup. So I thought I'll keep that one back. But then it had also a HHD, which again for some reason doesn't work. Don't know why. It should work, but it doesn't. And they didn't connect it up. They didn't tell me whether it doesn't work. They didn't test it or anything. It was unconnected. I hadn't connected it because it was empty. Because I'd already formatted it when I put it into storage. So I put it back in because I realised that my 2 terabyte M.2 was getting a bit full. So I thought I might move stuff to that one instead. But that was just before everything then went funny with the machine. So, yeah. As I say, with regards to their supplier, it ends up that either their supplier is charging double the amount that you pay on Amazon or eBay, or IT Central is taking money from you. So their suppliers may be charging the same as Amazon and eBay, but then they're taking 30% or 50% on top. So their supplier is charging £45 plus tax. That would take it to 60. They're then taking an extra £30 on top for them. I mean, I don't know. They're either doing that, that's either the way they're doing it, or they are not caring enough that their supplier charges double what eBay and Amazon charge. And in the end, it wasn't delivered any quicker than what I could have got it on Amazon or eBay in the end, because I was silly at the time of not thinking about the fact it was weekend. Thursday, I paid them the money to order it. And obviously that meant it would then be delivered Monday or Tuesday, which would have been the same as if I'd ordered it from Amazon or eBay. But because they said 2 days, that 2 days spoke to me, and I thought, well, it'd be delivered Saturday, which means I should be able to get the PC back on Saturday. What they've got to do is put the graphics card in, and then I get the thing back. Of course, my understanding is they knew what was wrong with the machine. They've sorted it out. They've said the only problem was the graphics card. Everything else is working fine. So of course, I told them it was struggling to boot into Windows, and they had told me that it had booted up to Windows. Well, then when the new graphics card was delivered, they said, it's not booting up to Windows. I said, right. I said, I was told previously that it booted up to Windows. And the bloke said, he said, well, the problem with that is we've got 3 desktops. One of them boots up to Windows, but we're not sure which one. Right. Okay, that's useful. It then transpired that the SSD drive that I had here, the one with the damaged pins, or the pins that were slightly bent, was the Windows one. Which, of course, I didn't know for a week or 10 days because of the fact they'd already told me that it had booted up to Windows. So I didn't think for a second that the one I had here was the Windows one. I thought that was the other one because that was a smaller drive. I was sure I put the Windows on the slightly bigger drive, bigger SSD, which I hadn't. I put the backup on that one. So it was like, right, okay. So I took that down, and it ends up that there's the plastic that's underneath the pins was broken and come out. So therefore that drive was useless. So it's like, okay. I said, well, okay, can you try and put Windows 7 onto one of the others? And they said, well, we'll have to charge you for that because it's going to be a lot of work to do that. Because we'll have to find out a way to put Windows 7 on, and then we'll have to do all the updates to get it up to date. So we'll have to charge you £70 for doing that. I said, okay. But then I heard nothing back from them. And then they said, no, we won't be able to put Windows 7 on. So we'll have to put Windows 10 on. Now, I thought, with that being the case, they wouldn't be charging me £70 because there's no work involved in really putting Windows 10 on compared to trying to figure out a way to put Windows 7 on and downloading all the updates and putting all the updates on the system. You're talking a lot of work involved in that. So I was thinking, well, obviously they're not going to charge me £70 for just installing the Windows 10 because basically you just plug it into the system, let it run. You don't have to do anything. Well, that was 4:00 on the Friday. That was decided. So I thought, well, I'll get it back tonight. That's one thing. Because I was having to put up with using a old laptop where the sound quality was tinny and terrible and the screen size was tiny compared to what I have normally with my desktop. So I just wanted to get my desktop back. So no, I didn't get it back Friday. Saturday they weren't even open, which was a bit unusual, but okay. Sunday they obviously weren't open. So Monday, I phoned up Monday, and then the chap said, the Windows 10 is on. We just want to keep it for a while to make sure everything's working okay and the Windows 10 is okay and everything. Right, okay. So of course I'm thinking, well, they're checking everything. They're making sure all the drivers are installed and everything. Nope. No. The drivers to the graphics card weren't installed. Really? But no, they weren't installed. The Windows 7 didn't come with a license, so therefore, as I said at the beginning of this short video, I couldn't access anything. I mean, you see, on Windows 10, you have the icon. When you click the Windows, the icon is there. This is this PC, and you find it on your home page, this PC, or on your first page that comes up when you boot the computer up. But that wasn't there in either position. It wasn't there anywhere. I went into settings, couldn't find it. It just wasn't there. Chrome wasn't there. I couldn't get on the internet at all. So I couldn't find my drives. I couldn't get on the internet. There was no internet IE11. There was no Chrome. There was nothing at all. I couldn't really do anything with it. So I paid £70 for something that was useless. Absolutely useless. They spent, a couple of hours checking it over. What were they checking over for those couple of hours? Absolutely nothing. They were trying to justify their £70. That's what they were doing. Pure and simple. Because if they'd checked, can you get online with this one? No, you can't, because there's no Chrome, there's no IE11, there's nothing there at all. Can you access drives on this? No. Even though they told me that all the drives were accessible. Clearly not. What they were actually telling me was that when they were putting in the Windows, all the drives were accessible, but they still chose to put Windows 10 on a drive that I would never put Windows 10 on. A 500 gigabyte drive. When there's a much smaller M.2 on there, which I think is about 250. That if you're going to put a Windows on something, you put it on the smaller one, because you don't need all that space. You then got to partition that drive when you really shouldn't need to have to do that, really. So it's just extra work for the person when they get home with the PC that they've got to do. So in the end, I had to replace that. I've got to now replace the graphics card that they ordered, because it doesn't work with the setup I've got here. Whether it's that or whether it's the settings in the BIOS, I don't know. I've changed them, but it hasn't changed a thing. Now, I know that it's not Windows 10 that's the problem, because I've Windows 10 on before and everything's worked. Because my system is that I use the DVI for the monitor, but I use the HDMI in the graphics card to connect to my amp. It's a Onkyo amp, big old thing. I say old, it's about 3 years old now, 4 years old. Big powerful thing. It's got 7 speakers on it. And then that gets connected to the out. One of the out HDMIs gets connected to the projector. And so therefore I can use the projector if I'm watching something where I want it big. Like if I'm watching football or something like that, or a movie, I can put it on there. Because I can also connect my Blu-ray player to the amp, and same thing, it will come through the projector. So the projector is useful for watching stuff like that. 3D, I've watched for it as well. So it's useful for that. But it was always the case before where I could just turn the projector off if I didn't want it, because of course it makes the room incredibly hot. And also, the bulbs for these projectors are very expensive. They don't last very long at all. They only last, I think, 4,000 hours. Which is not very long. And once you've got to 4,000 hours, you've got to replace the thing. So, they're not cheap if you've got it on all the time. But with this graphics card, the 550, I get nothing at all coming from the amp unless the projector is turned on. So I get no sound at all. And of course, that's flipping useless, because I've tried actually connecting the HDMI cable to the HDMI on the soundboard, and that doesn't do anything. I can't get that to work through the amp at all. So the way I've always done it was through the graphics card. Whereas with this graphics card, for some reason, it's not allowing me to turn the projector off and still have everything working. The previous ones, I've been able to do that. So I'm now having to buy another. Well, I've just done it today. I've had to buy another graphics card, an older model of graphics card, because obviously I can't trust the newer models, because the one newer model they've just brought, they've not sorted it out. Did they ask me how I use it? No. So did they make sure it was suitable for what I needed it for? Although I told them what I use the graphics cards for, to go to watch movies and stuff like that. I told them I've got a projector and it goes through that. Yeah, of course, but I got the machine back worse in some ways than it went. If the only thing that was wrong really was the graphics card that was in there was one of the things that was wrong, and obviously, unfortunately, the C drive was damaged. And I know why that was, because of the cable. It was one of these right-angled cables, and the problem is the way that was put into the drive. It was on the back of the machine, the rear part of the machine, and then when you put the rear panel on, it obviously moved the cable and pushed the cable down, which then damaged the wire or the bit that goes into. So yeah, I'm gonna have to change the cables now, because now I'm having to also buy another cheap PC or used PC with an SSD in it with Windows 7, so I can try and put Windows 7 back on this one. Because again, I'm not overly keen with Windows 10. Windows 10 is fine; it's not bad. It's just not brilliant. And I was happy enough with Windows 7, but again, whether I do that, what I do with it, I don't know. But yeah, I've had to spend £90 on another graphics card. So not ideal in any way, shape or form. That's really, through going to them, it's cost me 180 quid for one graphics card that can be used, really. Because I can sell the one that they got, but I'm going to lose a lot of money, because if you can buy it brand new for 40 something pounds on eBay and Amazon, I'm not going to sell it for £90, am I, really? I mean, it's crazy. But I would say, certainly, as I said in my review, if there was competition for this shop in Elgin, in Scotland, well then this shop will close. They wouldn't have any business. As simple as that. They wouldn't be able to have any business because of the fact that they are so unprofessional with the way they do things. Even with them, what I missed out the story, I'd phone up, and that person, the first person, told me he'd tested the machine, and yes, he'd been able to boot it up with their graphics card, and Windows came up, everything was fine, blah blah blah. Next person comes in next day, wasn't the person who did all that. I then ask him, what's been tested. He says, I don't know. I wasn't the one doing it. I said, did it? Is there anything? Is the Windows okay? I don't know, he said. What he should have said was, I'll check it. And what he should have said was, well, the person who tested it really should have wrote some notes and stuck the notes onto the actual case. To say, this is what I've done, this is what I've found, this is what needs to be done, etc., etc. Right? But they didn't do that. Whether they did that, and the next person I spoke to wasn't able to see the notes, or didn't bother to look, or there was no notes put down. Now, again, that's incredibly unprofessional. It really is. If you're going to have a situation where one person may be working on a machine one day, another person in another day, you've got to have a system where the next person coming in knows what's been happening, knows what's been tested and what's been discovered, and what needs to happen now. so they don't have to go through the whole thing and waste time doing the whole thing again. This is someone else's property you've got. That person wants it back. They want things done properly, but they want it back as quickly as possible. They don't want you wasting time because of the fact you haven't been making notes. Yeah, really, really poor. As a company, yeah, really, really poor. Disappointing, to say the least. I don't think there can't be any excuse for that. It's really, really bad management. I mean, in the end, it's always a case where you have to look. If things aren't right, you have to look at the manager. Yeah, the way the manager is doing things is wrong. Yeah, he's not doing a very good job in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it could easily be sorted out. Yeah, it's an okay shop. They've got an area where they can work. You just need to do things in a bit more of a professional manner. Yeah, write notes. You've got these little stickers. These are all what's it called? Bits of paper with sticky bits on the back that you can just write a few notes. So you can put that on there. It doesn't matter if you cover the whole side of one of the cases of the case because it doesn't matter. You can take all them off, clean the case before you give it back to the customer. Just make sure that you've got sufficient notes on there so the next person who comes in knows exactly what's been happening, exactly what's been tested, and what needs to be done now. So therefore, when I phone up the day after I've been told that it's been tested and it's your graphics card, I can then be told, well, actually, Windows didn't boot up. We still need to test that. But then what they should have done is, instead of just ordering the graphics card and saying, we won't do anything until the graphics card comes back, they've been saying, right, let's test to see if we can get Windows coming up. Let's test to see why that was the problem. And then they could have got back to me and said, oh, the drive we've got, the SSD, isn't a Windows drive. You don't seem to have a Windows drive on here. Then I would have realised that the drive I've got is the Windows drive. I could have driven that down. They could have tested it, realised that was broken. We could have got Windows 10 put on there before the graphics card even turned up while we were waiting for that to be delivered. I could then have taken the thing home on a Tuesday rather than on the Monday following. So 6 days earlier, I could have taken the machine home. I could have got it figured out a long time earlier. And if they had told me that, yeah, all we're going to be doing is just putting a Windows 7 on it that's, unregistered, and it's not going to have anything on it, including Chrome, including a way for you to access your drives, then I said, well, don't bother. I've got a Windows 10. I do it myself. Yeah, why am I going to pay you 70 quid for doing something I'm only going to have to replace anyway? Yeah, I told them I've got a Windows 10 myself, but they made it out that they're going to make sure that everything is done, everything is as it needs to be, so that when I get home, I don't actually do anything. I can just use it. That wasn't the case. They lied. If that's what they were trying to say, they were lying. Why would you pay £70 if you believe there's even a possibility you're going to have to go home and redo the whole thing yourself? That is absolutely and totally nonsensical. But there you go. That's what you have to do. And if that's what you have to do with IT Central, then I'd certainly say to people, it looks as if they are taking advantage of the fact that we're on lockdown and that a lot of these companies that would do this sort of work are not open. In which case, if that's the case, then once things are opened up again, then avoid IT Central. They're bad. I mean, either they are inadequate totally at doing their job, they can't do their job at all, or they're conning people. Which is it? Are they incompetent or are they conning people? If you're going to charge someone 70 quid for a job, then do the job. Make sure it's absolutely spot on. Well, it wasn't 70 quid. I paid 35 quid when they first took it. It was 70 quid to put on Windows 10 and make sure everything was running right. And as I say, within a couple of hours of me having it back home, I just said, right, I've tried to get the thing to work. I'm just going to have to get rid of that and put my version on. And when I told them about that, did they offer to refund even half of the 70 quid or even some of it? Nope. They just said, oh, well, you got it sorted out then. Excuse me, who was supposed to be sorting it out? What was that 70 quid for? Utterly ridiculous. Truly bloody ridiculous. I mean, Well, I mean, realistically speaking, I will say one thing. There was another computer shop in the area in the past, and that was so bad and so badly run that it had to be closed down because the manager got into a lot of fights with people because they were even slightly worse than IT Central, and they've closed. And I've got to say, I think IT Central is going to close because, if this is how they think that it's right to run a business, and they think it's right to charge people and take people's money for doing this, then that is crazy. Utterly crazy. I don't see how that is going to be reasonable in any way, shape, or form. I don't see how it's right to do that. It's insane. It's bad business. It's bad business sense. Yeah, as I said, I did the review, and let me just check. I'm not sure if they come back to me. I don't think they did. Let me have a look. Reviews. If I go to reviews, there's mine here. Oh, there's no replies. And this review was done when? I mean, I'm trying to be precise on the issue. But there's no reply from them at all. None. Yep. They've replied to other people, and other people have given bad reviews. Some people said would put 0 star if possible. Absolutely useless. They've replied to that. But that replied to mine. Generally speaking, are they going to? Probably not. So there you go. I will edit my review, and I will give them even lower because I gave them a chance to respond, to get back to me, and to try and solve the situation, and they couldn't be bothered. So there you go. There you go, then, folks. We'll deal with this, and we'll sort the rest out at some point in time. And I say I've still got work to do because I bought this new graphics card. Got to do that. I bought this new, old PC, so I've got to sort that out so I can try and get Windows 7 back on here. Because if necessary, I'll have a Windows 7 and a Windows 11 because I know there's certain things that work better with Windows 10. So like Windows 11, Windows 10. Because it's like the channels are what sport on. You get a better picture quality and stuff like that, and able to use their enhanced service if you have Windows 10. It doesn't work with Windows 7. So for that, Windows 10 is useful. I don't think it's useful for anything else, though. Not my experience with both. I think Windows 7 is better. So I just need to get that, and hopefully that will solve the situation. And with a new graphics card. So, and then I'm going to lose money on the other one. Although I think it's probably a case where I need to just keep this 550. Because if I sell it and lose half the money, what's the point in that? I just keep it. Then I've got a spare part, if need be, for the future. Because the graphics card I'm buying is an old one. It's a used one. It's one that was a bit newer than the one that went wrong previously. Because the one I had previously that went wrong that I overclocked was a 660 Ti. Whereas this one I've just bought, I believe, is a 960. Yeah, 960. So it's a 4 gig 960 gigabyte GeForce GTX 960. So it's an older one. So obviously it's not going to last necessarily as long as a brand new card would. So rather than losing 40, 50 quid on the other one, I might as well just say, okay, keep that as a spare. Yeah, I mean, it would be ideal if the company would just take the thing back and give me a refund, but I don't think they're going to do that. So there you go. That's that video done. And so I didn't want to do a video on this issue, but I figured I should probably do so because of the fact that when it comes down to it, they are unwilling to be honourable about the situation. So I can add this to my review and then people can listen to the full story. And they have every right to do so. So you take care. And hopefully you don't have any PC problems, but if you do, I'd look around. I'd go to someone else if I was you. Because I certainly don't believe that IT Central is the place for you to go, not for PCs. And they've had every chance. I mean, as I say, you can't blame the owner for them being incompetent and unprofessional. Yeah, it's not the owner's fault for that. Because if you have good business practices in place before the owner, then they will still be there during the owner. Obviously, there were no good practices put in place beforehand. And their reviews are sort of hit and miss. Yeah, there's quite a few that are positive, quite a few that are negative. So, yeah, the company have had a lot where they could have learnt from over the years, and they don't seem to have learnt. They don't seem to mind, upsetting customers. So there you go. Take care, folks, and keep a safe distance from each other. Because even when this Rona is a bit more relaxed to conditions, we have to realise that the Rona will probably still be there for a while, and it will come back. Or versions of it. So I think it'd be wise at the moment to just be aware that when you go into shops and stuff like that, take some hand wash with you and just wash your hands when you leave the shop. If you've been touching stuff, even touching handles, because you just don't know. Because if the Rona comes back and people aren't quite aware that it's come back, it could be in your area. It could be on one of the things that you've just picked up without you even realising it. So we're in this situation now. So be wise, take care, and hopefully you don't have any PC issues. Not in this area, no, where I am. Enjoy. Bye-bye.